as a CEO, I think you're not doing your job if you're not thinking about how agent is going to help you as a company. You go on Twitter, there's like all these influencers that are like, I've got 70 agents working for me and they've automated me 1 billion of pipeline. I don't trust that that is true. There is potential there to automate things. AI agents are going to play a big role. The question is where. From an operations standpoint, there's definitely going to be potential, right? Because there are stuff that you do that is repetitive.
Hi, and welcome to Mission Ops Possible, a podcast for and by operation leaders. I am Guillaume, the head of marketing at Forest Admin. At Forest Admin, our team and our solutions are fully dedicated to operations. So we created a podcast fully dedicated to operations too. In each episode, I invite a different operation leader to speak about their vision, their tips, and the stories in the trenches. And on that front, today's guest is not going to disappoint. In this episode, my guest is Amaury de Closset, who is the CEO and founder at Limio. Limio is a subscription platform that helps businesses create a better commerce experience. Hey Amaury, how are you?
Hi, Guillaume, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I usually don't do this on this podcast, but just wanted to say that I think we've met over 8 years ago
Yeah, it
when
was a
you
while.
actually had just launched Limio and was just launching another business, right?
Yeah, it was a while ago. And, there's been a lot of ups and downs, and we're here today.
Can you introduce us to Limio quickly?
Yeah, of course. Is a subscription commerce platform. So we help software companies and media companies to create better commerce experience for their subscriber. These are the experiences such as a new purchase, a renewal, an upgrade, a downgrade, and making sure that companies have the tools to upsell their customer, cross-sell their product, and can create really good experiences around that.
So where is this coming from? Because I think at the origin of Limios, you're really interested in focusing on customer experience, and then you switch to tackling subscriptions and payments.
Yeah, so it's been a long journey because it's been 8 years. So I used to work at GoCardless, which is a payment provider. At GoCardless, I worked mostly with subscription companies, and funnily, I was also working a lot in France. I had software companies as customer, I had insurance companies, even retailer. And I noticed that they all were struggling to create those experiences around commerce. We were doing the payment, so we were coming at the tail end. When everything was built, then okay, you put direct debit in it and job done. But there was a lot of work ahead of that. And so I always thought there was a gap in the market there. Fixing that, addressing that gap is where all the work started. And so in 2017, I wanted to work on customer experience and improve the customer experience within the world of subscription. But then it was, well, how do you make that, valuable to companies? And so we started it in media companies. And even there was a bit of a journey. We started on the customer service side. We realized that wasn't interesting enough. And then we went on the online side. So creating online commerce experience, just like when you purchase a subscription on Netflix, on Spotify, just making those experiences really easy to create as a company. But then we also realized that's not enough to just do online. And really where we started having some momentum is when we started doing both. We started doing online and offline. So in the world of subscription, in consumer, that's the online subscription flow. But then the contact center or the customer service team when you're having problem with your subscription and you want to cancel. So we started doing both together, and that's really when things got more interesting for our target market.
Were there other operational pains that you noticed working on this that actually shaped the product?
Yeah, I think why we had the sort of lucky break around the omni-channel commerce was because this creates a lot of operational pain for a customer. You've got the marketing team that's working on the website, you've got the customer service team that works on the customer contact, and those two teams don't talk to each other, but at the end of the day, it's one customer experience, right? And operationally, it's a big challenge to make sure that those two work seamlessly together. It's not the same platform, it's not the same team. And that's where Limio came in and provided a platform that could handle both of those channels. And that was very successful in media, but now we're applying it to software and SaaS. And it's the same challenge, it's revenue team, it's finance team, it's customer success team that don't really talk to each other. engineering and product teams. So you've got all these teams that are managing the customer experience around the subscription, but that use very different tool that don't necessarily know how to work together. And that's where Limio comes in. It's really, sorting out those operational challenges and making sure that there is a platform to manage the customer experience from a commerce perspective.
I love this. What got us talking about doing this podcast is that you did a hackathon very recently that was actually focusing on some of those aspects as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I think as every founder, you have to think about AI, right? And for a couple of years, I mean, I'm a big user of AI, but I just couldn't really figure out how AI would fit into Limio, beside gimmicky or things that looked like a bit like a toy.
Not just doing your email copy, but going further than that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Doing something that brings a lot of value to a customer and trying to find that idea or how we could add value. And
Mm.
funnily, it's always the two things that they tell you when you start the company is talk to your user. So I started talking a bit more to our users and I also started coming back to our vision around customer experience. And that's where I realized that actually you can think of AI as a customer experience. It's going to be a new channel, basically. And around commerce, there's the rise of agentic commerce. It's going to happen that at some point you're going to interact with a salesperson. That's actually not a person, it's an AI. And that person will
Mm.
qualify you, will be able to close, will be able to sell you something, and then might even manage the whole subscriber life cycle when you want to upgrade, when you want to buy an add-on, when you want to change your seat. And that suddenly got me really excited about AI, thinking, okay, this is really core to what we do. It's not anymore a nice way of summarizing an email or an assistant. It's really core to what Limio does, which is customer experience and helping you manage those channels. So that was the realization. But then it's how do we put it in practice? Limio was born before AI became big, so we don't necessarily have a lot of expertise in building AI feature, building agents. And so I thought the first step was to do a hackathon so we could all start wrapping our head around how do you build an AI feature? And what could we do? Because that was one of the ideas. There were other really great ideas in the hackathon from the team.
How large was the team that took part in the hackathon?
Yeah, we were about 20 people, mostly technical people, and everyone contributed. Obviously, engineering could do a lot more, but even non-engineering like myself, we contributed and worked on some ideas.
Did you have like some guideline for this hackathon, or did you go in there with some ideas you wanted to try?
Yeah, we had quite a structured process because in the end of the day, running a hackathon is expensive in a way because you're pulling everyone from their day-to-day work. We did it during the week, so during working time, and so I want to make sure it was useful. So the number one goal was to learn how to build AI feature, learn about the tooling, learn about the infrastructure, the different models. That was the core goal, and that was really successful from that perspective. But I think the team went actually way beyond. So we started with a list of 20 ideas, like everyone was welcome to contribute. And then we just defined a list of 5 ideas that we thought we could actually advance in a day. Because obviously, if you've only got a day, you've got to think about can we show something at the end of the day? And also things that could have business value.
Did something like a feature or a new product come out of this hackathon?
Yes, we have 2 or 3 features that are going to come out of this hackathon.
Very cool.
Then there's this big sort of strategic push around AI being a channel that I don't think it's really a feature more than a whole set of new features that we need to build. So that's going to be more like an epic and probably several quarters of work, really. So, yeah, we did come up with that. And we also played with those agents that can fix small bugs on your behalf. There's a big push there in the industry to get those agent developer that fixes or refactor bits of code. And we really want to make that work. But, it's easy to play with, but on an older code base, there's quite a bit of work to make it work perfectly. So nearly all the ideas that we had shortlisted are going forward in some shape or form.
So what you were saying about AI becoming a new channel or becoming a new way to experience products or shopping, is this like a new way of thinking about this?
I think sometimes it's more like the mindset unlock that it
Mm.
creates in that, I'm originally an engineer and I'm very much someone who needs to see it to believe it, even if it's just a prototype. And so that's the biggest unlock for me is seeing it and thinking, okay, yes, this is doable. So we had we had an agent in Claude that basically was having a discussion with you as a prospect, was walking you through all the different plans and add-ons. And then when you wanted to purchase, generated a purchase link in Limio to create a checkout, populate your cart, and then you could go up the transaction. And then later on, when you wanted to cancel, they could sort of negotiate with you to try to get you to downgrade or to take a discount. So that's what I wanted to kind of see, is this possible? And this is frankly what you'll do with a salesperson or with customer success, but it's moving it in the AI context that's 24/7 and gives you hopefully good and quality answer, which needs some training to get there. We already have all the tools for an AI to do the transactional part with Limio. Now it's actually not so much about even doing a roadmap on the Limio side for it to work, because it did work. It's more finding design partners, working with companies that buy in that vision and want to give it a try. So that's the next step for us, trying to align with a company that wants to do this sort of agentic commerce that will sell on your behalf, will close, will upgrade, will upsell, etc.
I think you also have something with this trying to get the customer back or just to downgrade and not churn. 15 years ago, I was working for American Express, and the most ROI team we had was called the SAC, Save a Card Member. Card member is how
Yeah,
we call customer at American Express. And that was the most valuable team because there were three people in France. The whole job was just take those calls from people who want to churn and get them to stay on the product. So if you manage to do that with some AI, I think it's as valuable as doing the acquisition part. You might want to give them a call.
absolutely. And we had several ideas around the canceling experience. In consumer, it's big business, right? You've got big team, customer service. We had one customer. We realized that we have an application in Salesforce, in the traditional world where customer success or support team can use it to handle new purchase, upgrade, downgrade, and cancellation. And we realized with one customer that 80% of what they were using Limio for Salesforce for was for cancellation. So we know cancellation is really important. And we have controls around trying to surface the best cancellation option that's most likely to retain, but it's deterministic. You set up typical marketing, right? You set up your filters and you set up your rules, and then
Mm.
we show you what you've configured. I think the next step is really having that based on AI. And so we had one idea that was a really fun hackathon idea. We had a voice agent you called, and the voice agent was trying to get you to get the right discount, completely automating it, but making it feel like it was a human on the other side. That was a
Yeah.
hackathon, so it wasn't entirely perfect.
It's a
It's
new
that.
skill we need now. Is like being able to negotiate with robots, or we need our own robots to go negotiate with your own robots.
Yeah, well, the good news is robots seem to be a bit pushover. So if you keep asking, they seem to keep giving until you hit some kind of hard limit that's set in the system. So I think there's definitely a learning curve on how you fine tune those systems. But I think the customer convenience is overwhelming. Like, having someone who can answer 24/7, and the benefit to business, it's sort of cold hearted. But the fact that you don't need huge customer service team or huge success team that handle really repetitive tasks, it's coming. There's just no way about it. So then the question is, how do you make AI handle those repetitive tasks really well? And where does the human feed in?
Where do you put the balance? Yeah. Mm,
Yeah,
mm.
exactly.
You told me as we were preparing, you do support with one person. Is this correct?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
you need to tell us a bit more how you make this work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, first, Camille is amazing, so I'll give her a shout out in our support team. Support is a challenge in a startup. So we sell mostly to enterprise companies, so fairly large companies. Now we're going a bit down to mid-market, but they're still pretty big companies. They have a lot of stakeholders, in product, in engineering, in revenue. So we get a lot of support, and they're pretty complex requests typically. They're not usually, can you reset my password?
Mm.
There's no two support requests that look alike. And I think where we invested a lot is in self-service and help desk. So, we've got more than 500 support doc, we've got developer doc, API docs. We're really trying to invest as much as possible in our self-service doc. We've got really detailed release notes, which is, a bit unusual for a lot of SaaS, but we're kind of trying to inspire ourselves from Salesforce, who have very detailed release notes. just making sure people can be as independent as possible. But even then, in the enterprise, there's such a variety of scenarios, and then our customer always do things that we haven't necessarily planned for, or we weren't aware they wanted to use our product that way. So we've got the support engineer, we've got a support rota. All the engineers at Limio goes through the support rota. It's not the most popular thing from an engineering standpoint, but I do think it's important for everyone to talk to the customer, understand their problem, have that frequent interaction. So that's really what it's solving. It is solving a bit also the part that we need sometimes more people on support. One thing that I really like with that actually is we found that the engineers that are on the roadmap that come on support for a week, they learn about the customer, but they also help our own support engineers to learn about the product and the code base. So there's like a good collaboration happening there.
Like a cross pollination.
Yeah, exactly. They're learning, one is learning from the customer, the other is learning about the code base. It's like work placement in the support team, learn about things there and then come back to your own team. I think that's very successful and something we want to keep.
Have you used AI as well? I've had some of our guests talk to me about how they use AI for the help center or for providing this kind of a first level support to the customers.
There's a bit of AI for wordsmithing, making sure that the tone is right when you answer, summarizing very long issues. So we use it as part of a workflow. But one thing we use is sort of first AI agent around documentation. That AI can draft support documentation. It can iterate on existing support documentation. It can review documentation you've created. And it's basically an accelerant to creating quality documentation. So that's just an agent built in ChatGPT. I've imported select internal documentation, rarely fully up to date. You want to be a bit careful what you bring in. So it has all the context around Limio and our help desk and some of our internal documentation. And basically, we use it into it either as a starting point to draft a new documentation. So we'll take the Jira ticket and we'll say, based on this Jira ticket and everything you know about Limio, create the documentation around this new feature. And it'll start as a first draft, and then human will still need to kind of take it and improve it. Or you can do it the other way around, where you start writing things, and then at the end you say, review this documentation and improve it. And I think the really important bit for me is consistency. I think good self-serve documentation is consistent. It refers to each other. It uses consistent terminology, consistent formattings. And obviously, when you don't have a technical writer, one day it's this developer writing it, this day it's a product manager writing it, this day it's a business
Yeah.
person writing it, you get really different tone, very different terminology. Engineers will typically describe the feature, but give no business context around what the feature is for. A business person might write a lot about the business feature, but might be very high level on the how to use the feature. And so this provides consistency. And I think that's really important and where it's mostly successful, I'd say.
I want to switch gear a little bit. This podcast usually focused on operations.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the operational challenges that you've seen in the world that you know well, which is SaaS and commerce under the, I would say, lens of subscription models.
Yeah, so I'm going to go straight for the number one challenge that I see. And
Yeah.
I think it's the reason we exist as a business. It's really that omni-channel is really hard to make it work. So if you think about SaaS, you've got product-led growth that's going to be, freemium and signing up online, buying your plan online. That's typically managed by product and engineering. Then you've got sales processes. You might use a CPQ, a configure price quote system. That's going to be the revenue team, revenue ops, sales. You might have third-party channel like partners. So you're going to have a partnership team that manage referral, that manage reseller, white label partnerships. So now you're already at like three teams. Think about AI, that's going to be probably a fourth team that manage that AI channel. And basically, it's really complicated for companies to provide a good customer experience through the subscription lifecycle across all those channels. Because also you can move between channels, right? Maybe
Yeah.
you started coming through a reseller because they told you, hey, Forest is great, you should use it. So you start using it. And then after a while, you renew, and then you then are a direct customer interacting with the sales team. But you don't really want to talk with the salesperson. You just want to mute your seat online because that's more convenient. And so you're crossing through all those channels that have been built by different teams, and that might not be well configured to talk to each other.
And they might not be consistent too. Yeah. Mm.
Exactly. They might use different catalogs, so you don't get the same offer or you get different deals. They might not have the same data. Typically, if you talk to a salesperson, they have access to everything, but you go online and it can be very limiting and it can be a bit clunky. That's a big challenge for companies because you've got different teams using different tools with a subscriber that comes at a different stage of their life cycle. Sometimes they're on a trial, sometimes they've been a customer for you for 7 years and they're on a grandfather pricing. Those things are really hard to manage for companies. And that's the operational pain that we're trying to solve by bringing in those channels within one platform where you can easily manage everything you're selling to them, all the different interactions you're having throughout that life
Mm-mm.
cycle in one place.
You also mentioned something you call post-sale friction in terms of what happens after the sale, which I think is also an interesting one because, as you said, those teams need to speak to each other. It's not just having this consistent front in different channels, also what happens next.
Yeah, and I'm sure you know from marketing that people are very focused on acquisition, and then after that, it's, oh, well, let's think about that.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of thought being given to how you acquire a customer, either online through product-led growth or through a sales team. But then things can fall through. It's interesting because it's a real challenge. Once a customer press purchase online or talk to a salesperson and say, okay, I'm ready to buy, there's so many things that needs to happen, right? You need the CRM to be updated. You need the billing system to create the invoice. You need payments to be taken against that invoice. You need entitlements to start. If you have any physical product, you might need fulfillment to be shipped. All those things
Mm.
needs to happen. And in an ideal world, they'd all happen in 5 seconds, right? That's the consumer way of doing things. If you're high volume SaaS, you're going to be automating everything. If you're high touch or enterprise, you can get away with, okay, we'll get back to you in 3 business days with your login. Um, but we work mostly with high volume SaaS and we want to facilitate and provide the tools so that you can easily orchestrate all those systems being updated as soon as you purchase. And that means your customer immediately get access, you immediately get paid, your salespeople immediately know that they've closed the sale or that self-serve has closed the sale or the partner has closed the sales. From that moment, after those 5 seconds, if they want to upgrade, if they want to downgrade, if they want to buy an add-on, they can do it. And again, it's a 5 second process. They go somewhere, they press upgrade, oh, it's done. The billing is updated, the CRM is updated, the entitlement is updated, everything works seamlessly. That's the dream. That's what we're trying to work towards. I think our
Mm-mm.
vision at Limio from day one is trying to empower the business teams because that's the cheapest way of doing things. If you don't need an engineer to do things,
Yeah.
and you can deliver a great experience, that's going to be faster because you don't need a sprint and sprint delivery and QA and testing and deployment. You can just get the revenue ops team to do everything. So our dream is to facilitate experience, but also put the revenue team in charge of doing it. Because I think ultimately they're the one who are on the hook for the numbers. They need to make sure that they sell, that they upsell, that they retain. And so we want to give them the tools to control this across all their channels. Um, so yes, that's the post-sale friction.
I think it's very interesting because you're the first guest I'm getting on the podcast who is not a user of Forest Admin. And yet I think you're very aligned in terms of the mindset of having one single source of truth, making sure that you make people in business teams or operations teams as autonomous as possible, where you don't need an engineer. That's the Forest Admin gospel.
Yeah, I remember when Forest launched years ago, and I really like the idea. I do think there's a lot of merit for business team to be able to do things themselves without requiring
Mm.
engineering. I think particularly if you're a SaaS business, you should be working on your product, like all your engineering resource. At Limio, I don't want anyone to work on internal tooling from an engineering standpoint. In an ideal world, they'd be 100% working just on our product, just helping our customer have better features,
Yeah.
better workflow, etc. In a lot of SaaS business, you've got a lot of people building backend support systems, which Forest automate. At Limio, our primary competitor is really the engineering team that is building a custom cart, a custom checkout, a custom
Yeah.
self-service, a middleware integration to plug all these experiences with the billing system, with the CRM. That's our biggest competition. And these are not small teams. They're not just like an engineer spending 20% of their time. There's sometimes teams of 4 or 5 people with an architect, with a product manager, with 4 or 5 engineers. And if they're in the US, these are really high salaries. So you're talking about a massive expense to the business. And invariably, when I talk to the business team and I ask, are you happy with this setup? They say, no, no, it's terrible, but we don't
Yes.
know how to change it. It's slow, it's expensive, it's brittle. It doesn't give us the agility to innovate and to change our pricing or packaging, deploy promotions, do new campaigns. So I think there's very aligned in that vision of putting things in one place and enabling the business to do more themselves.
Yeah, I think even going further with what's coming now with AI, you can imagine a world where business can sort of prompt what they want and with no-code solutions get the tools that they need very quickly. So I think it used to be an agility and a success factor, but it's going to be even more so in the coming years.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And, I'm still wrapping up my head around what we could do around that. But you're right. If you're a single source of truth, you should be able to use AI to automate things, make things better. Whereas if it's in fragmented system that's managed by different teams, well, you're never going to get there. Or you're going to have to create a
Mm.
layer that kind of absorb everything, puts everything in the data warehouse, and then run the model on it, which is going to be out of reach for a lot of companies. So I agree that bringing things in one place and with AI, it's going to open up new opportunities. Is it going to be efficiency gain or is it going to be increasing the revenue of our customer? I don't know yet. I'm always more interested in finding ways that AI can help our customer increase revenue. But increasing efficiency is also an important theme.
Yeah. As a CEO, how much are you focused on those operational challenges for you or for your customers?
Me and my co-founder were very aligned on all of this. So that's been quite helpful because he's the CTO. So therefore, given we're heavy on engineering, a lot of the operations are around engineering. And I think what we always want to do is, again, we never want to build tooling specifically for our internal tool. So for example, we have different customer environments and we need people to go in those environments to support, to investigate an issue. What I've seen in my previous company, Go Cardless, is they built a tool that made it easy for support to impersonate the customer and then log in and see what's happening. I don't want to do these things because, again, I just want our engineering to be focused on building our product. And so, building something as an internal tool needs to be last resort. So, I've always made that clear. And again, I think that's quite in line with
Yeah.
Forest's vision. Engineering shouldn't be building internal tool unless we have no other choice. Like, there's nothing on the market that can help us. So there's ways of achieving this without needing to build dedicated tool. It did require work. We had to set things up. We had to get them reviewed for security, but they work. And then we didn't have to build something. But I think if we hadn't set this vision of we don't build internal tool unless we really have to, I think the default would have been, oh, look, we could build a new feature where you can impersonate someone.
It's Pandora's box. You start opening this Pandora's box, right?
Exactly, because then you need to scope it, you need to build it, you need to maintain it. The security consequences to everything, but something that you have to maintain yourself is now you're on the hook for it. So yeah, it's something that I have to re-emphasize all the time is let's not build internal tools. Let's always check that there's a way of doing it. If it doesn't work and we can't find anything, we can build internal tool. I mean, in DevOps, we do sometimes need to build internal tools for deployment and things like that. But as much as possible around operation, we try to not build any internal tool and just use the tool we've got because often they can do a lot more than we know. It's just those are often more advanced features that you need to learn about, you need to train yourself, and then you need to deploy and manage. But they do exist generally in your IT tech stack.
Yeah, makes total sense. Amaury, is there any last tip you would have for us in terms of how you see operations evolving maybe in the next couple of years, especially with your hackathon that we spoke
Yeah,
about?
yeah. I mean, look, as a CEO, I think you're not doing your job if you're not thinking about how agent is going to help you as a company. You go on Twitter or X, and there's like all these influencers that are like, I've got 70 agents working for me, and they've automated me 1 billion of pipeline. I don't trust that that is true, but to any lie, there's
You
always a
have
bit
to
of
look at
truth
it,
in
yeah.
it. There is potential there to automate things, and So I think AI agents are going to play a big role. The question is where? Is it going to be the AI SDR? Is it going to be the AI DevOps engineer? Is it going to be the AI engineer? Is it going to be the AI support? Where is it really going to be fully useful? But I think from an operations standpoint, there's definitely going to be potential, right? Because there are stuff that you do that is repetitive. There are things where you're already providing guideline to your team. You're training them on a process that they need to run. So you can easily see how an AI agent could do it. And maybe they won't do a perfect job. To be fair, a human also usually don't do a perfect job, but they might be able to do a good job. And then the human can come in for the last mile. So that's where really I think the future is, and where as a company, I want us to be able to develop those agents, deploy them, make sure they work, maintain them, which is still work, right? It's not like deploy it and then never think about it. It's you got to maintain them, you got to review the output, you got to have human in the loop and make sure that that's possible. I think from an operation standpoint, that's going to be the future, and having tools that enable you to plug easily that AI. That's again really appealing. My current challenge as a non-technical person is I want to have those AI agents, but I need to put in a solution design. We need to have like a refinement session. It needs to still be engineering led, which is fine, and that's how it is. But if we have platform that enables me as a business user to just deploy it, um, fine tune it, evaluate, like keep reviewing the output and then deploy it, then that's really powerful. And for a lot of SaaS like Forest or for Limio, that's really where we come in. You can always go to ChatGPT, you can always go to the big AI, but that's still a lot of work because they're general purpose. But for us as an opinionated tool that focus on a really specific problem, we can make it really easy for business to deploy an AI that really just does one thing. It doesn't do everything like ChatGPT. It
Yeah.
doesn't do everything that's possible. It just does one thing. But that one thing is really easy to deploy, really easy to measure, and you don't have to pull in engineer. I think that's the future of those agents, and something I'm really excited about.
And you don't know, you might actually generate 1 billion of pipeline, right?
Hopefully, yeah, that's the dream.
That's all my wishes for Limio's future, that you reach
Thank
that
you.
1 billion
Same here.
pipeline.
Same for Forest, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because it is hard, and that part of the hackathon was also separate hype from reality
Mm,
because it's really hard with things like vibe coding and the
yeah.
AI SDR. There's so much VC money into it. There's big marketing operations behind it. And don't get me wrong, AI has real product value. It's the most useful thing since we invented the web, but there is a lot of hype.
Yeah, we were all raised with this Star Trek thing where you speak to the machine and it would just do the thing and not bother you, and it would be right every time. So when you say vibe coding, or we're thinking about can we do vibe ops, like you go into Forest admin and you say what you want it to do, like build me a workspace that let me do this and that on this data collection. And it could work today. It's just like, are we there yet? I don't know, but that's the kind of future we were sold, I think, as kids,
Yeah,
and maybe it's happening now.
I'm with you. I mean, that's the dream.
Yeah,
I think there's still some work. I think you can make it a great demo, but making it production ready, I think that's the
yeah,
real challenge. And that's also one thing we learned in the hackathon is you can build it as a demo or as a bit of a toy, but bringing it to production is a very different
mm,
skill. And I think that's the next thing we need to learn as a company. And it's not very glamorous. It's a lot of work because the demo looked great. People are not necessarily going to see the difference. But what's going to drive the real business outcomes ultimately is to have something that, when you say those things to the AI, it actually works. Your customer will say it in different ways, but the outcome they want should be fairly similar and should generate something accurate. I think it's possible. It's going to be several months of work and maintenance over time and improvement.
I like that message. Let that be the last word we say on this podcast, right?
Perfect.
Believe that there is still value in working. It's not all going to be done by AI.
Yeah, actually, you really can't be lazy. It's tempting to be lazy with AI,
Yeah,
but I think that's when you're not going to get a good outcome.
right. Thank you very much, Amaury. I hope we can do an update when you reach that 1 billion pipeline.
I'll send you a message when I get 1 billion in pipelines from my agent.
Cool. I want to be the first to know.
Perfect.
Thanks again, and have a nice day, a nice week as well.
Thank you, Guillaume. You too. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.